I'm Dr. Devi. I'm an obstetrician, gynecologist and an infertility specialist from Milan, Indiranagar, Bangalore. Today I'm going to talk to you about genetic testing in infertility. So we all know an egg and a sperm mix to form an embryo and then forms a baby. It gets attached to the womb of the mother and then grows as a pregnancy. So when I say genetic abnormality can happen or it can come from the male partner, from the female partner, and as a result of genetic abnormalities coming from the male or the female partner, it can be seen as a genetic abnormality in the baby or the embryo. How all do these present in front of us? How do these manifest? It may manifest as a long-standing infertility. The male or the female partner may have some of the genetic abnormalities which is visually seen. It may even present to us with an infertility which is very, very difficult to treat, like multiple cycles of even higher forms of treatments like IVF failing, or even after they're getting pregnant, the woman miscarries very, very frequently. Or sometimes they come to us with a history of having an abnormal child. So these are the ways in which a genetic abnormality present to us or show us. So everybody can ask me a question: is genetic testing required for me? I have infertility, and if so, do I have to go through genetic testing? So the answer is no, everybody doesn't have to go through a genetic testing. So in whom all is it really required? Who all are the couples who need to go through genetic testing in infertility? If the husband or the wife or both have a known genetic abnormality, or if there is a genetic abnormality in a close relative, like their own father, mother, sisters, first cousins, or if this couple, they have a history of a previous child with a genetic abnormality, or as I said, if they have a long-standing unexplained infertility, if they themselves have history of going through multiple miscarriages, or they have a history of a child who actually showed in a scan that that child has a genetic abnormality and they had to go through an abortion because of that, if the male partner has complete absence of sperms. So these are the general conditions in which genetic testing is indicated for you. So I'll talk in general about the genetic testing which is available. There are certain tests which is done in the male partner. There are certain tests which is done in the female partner. Now we have certain genetic tests which can be done in the embryo, the fetus. Before even putting it into the mother's womb, we can actually genetically test this embryo and then put it in the womb. There are even certain genetic tests which is done on an unborn baby. That is after the mother, after this woman conceives, when the child is in the lady's womb, there are certain genetic tests which can be done on that unborn fetus. So let's see the genetic test in the male first. One of the most common severe forms of male infertility which present to us is azoospermia, where there is a complete absence of sperms. So when that is there, a genetic testing is indicated, warranted. It has to be done for the male partner. We do something called a chromosome karyotyping, where we count the number of genes or number of chromosomes in each cell of the male partner. So I am a human being. I am made up of different cells. Each cell in my body has a nucleus where there are chromosomes. There are 23 pairs or total 46 number of chromosomes. There are certain people who do not have 46. Some do have 47. Some have only 45. Some have certain abnormalities in these chromosomes which may result in a severe form of male infertility, like a complete absence of sperms. So this can be found out by something as simple as a blood test. So you will take a little bit blood from one of your hands and then send it for a karyotyping. There is another test called a Y chromosome microdeletion. Again, Y chromosome is a chromosome which is there only in males. It is not there in a female. So a certain part of that chromosome or the gene, if it is not there, if it is absent, it can result in a genetic abnormality which may present to us as a complete absence of sperms. So this has to be tested if the male has azoospermia or complete absence of sperms, because it's important for us to treat also to know whether it is positive or not. In certain scenarios, we may not be able to get sperms from that male. In certain scenarios, we may be able to get the sperms from that male. This can be predicted through this Y chromosome microdeletion test. And in certain scenarios, there is a chance of this abnormality passing on to a male child born to this man. So it's very important to find out about this. Now there is a condition called cystic fibrosis, which is not very common in India, but it's very common in the Western world. This can be there in the male or the female. This can lead to severe forms of infertility in the male. They again present to us with an absent sperms. So it's important to test this in the male as well as in the female. If it is there in the male, it has to be tested in the female also, because it can pass on to the child. There are certain simple tests like DNA fragmentation index. Now the sperm has many parts. It has a head, it has a neck, and it has a tail. The head is the one which has all the genetic material which goes into the egg of the woman and makes a baby. So certain people have that DNA content highly broken. It has to be nice and compact and filled inside the head of a sperm for a successful pregnancy and a healthy pregnancy to happen. In certain people, this is highly fragmented. It is broken and it is just sparse. So this can be found out by a simple semen testing called a DNA fragmentation index. This is also, it's not a purely genetic test, not a pure genetic test like the other test which I am talking about, but this is also something which can be tested in a patient or in a couple with a long-standing infertility or multiple failed cycles. By and large, these are the general genetic tests in a male. In a female, the genetic testing is by and large a karyotyping, which is again a blood sample taken from one of the hands, and we count the total number of chromosomes or genes in the cells. If that is abnormal, then it can be an indicator of the reason for infertility, and if an abnormality is found, we have to look for the same abnormality in the baby also. Again, the cystic fibrosis can be, it's a mutation, a genetic mutation which can be tested through a simple blood test in a female also. Let's move on to the genetic testing of the embryo, which is the most commonly and widely performed genetic testing in the infertility treatment. When I say embryo, it is a 5-day-old embryo, which is like a ball. It has an outer form, it has something which is inside. The outer case or the shell is there, inside which it is lined by certain cells, and inside there is something like a mushroom, which actually becomes a baby. This outer part becomes the placenta. Now this whole embryo, it's a 5-day-old embryo, is made up of hundreds of cells. We put a small hole in the case and take 6 to 8 cells and send them for testing. What do we test in them? If there is a known genetic abnormality in the male or the female or both, the same thing can be tested in the embryo. Or if there is nothing known in the father and the mother, you can test for the general abnormality, the most common of the general abnormalities which is seen, which is again counting the number of chromosomes in those cells. This is called a pre-implantation genetic testing. This can be done, and if we get a genetically normal embryo, this can be transferred into the mother's womb for a better pregnancy chance, and the chance of delivering a healthy baby improves in this particular scenario. It's particularly important when the woman has gone through multiple cycles of IVF, or even after transferring multiple good-looking embryos if the pregnancy has not happened, or if there have been multiple miscarriages or even 1 or 2 miscarriages as a part of the IVF. This can be done. And it is also very important if the woman's age is high, more than 35, at least more towards 40, it is definitely indicated. It's called a pre-implantation genetic testing. Now, there are certain genetic tests which can be done in a pregnant woman. Once you have conceived, And if when you're going through your pregnancy, there is a way of testing whether this baby is normal or not without harming you or the baby. There is a test called NIPT, which is a non-invasive prenatal testing, where the mother's blood is taken. So when the baby grows inside our womb, a little bit of the DNA of this baby comes into the mother's blood. That is picked up by a genetic testing and looked for abnormalities. This will not harm the baby or the mother, and it has a very good detection rate. So apart from that, if we strongly suspect a genetic abnormality in a baby by means of a history or by means of an abnormal blood test or by means of an abnormal scan, you can do something called a chorionic villus sampling or an amniocentesis, where we put a needle into the womb and take a few cells either from the back side of the placenta without touching the baby, or we take a few cells from the fluid in which this baby is floating. That fluid is taken, it will have a little bit of the cells which is exfoliated from the baby's skin. Those cells are sent for testing. If it is coming back genetically normal, we can continue that pregnancy. And there is an exact way of finding out which abnormality is, if at all, it is there. So these are the most important genetic testings in infertility. Some of them do help in the diagnosis, some of them do help in the treatment, and some of them help us assure that this pregnancy is normal and we can continue with this pregnancy. So I hope this talk helped. If you have any comments or queries, please feel free to jot them down in the comments box below. Our team will be very happy to pick them up and give it to me, and I'll be privileged to answer any questions which you have. So thanks for your patient listening. Thanks a lot. Thank you.